Hello, everyone. Welcome to Realization Hub. My name is Michelle, and I'm an intuitive counselor, energy healer, channeler, and astrologer who loves to bridge the gap between the unseen world of spirit, consciousness, energy, and intuition so that it can apply to your everyday human experience. And today's video is an energy update for the lunar eclipse in Virgo. I'm going to be going over the astrology as well as any wisdom that wants to come through for you in these channeled messages. And at the end, I'm going to pull some additional cards so that we can get some extra information for this full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo. All right, so the first thing I want to do is get into the astrology of this lunar eclipse. So it's a lunar eclipse in Virgo, and it's going to be on Thursday, March 13th at 8:54 p.m. Hawaii time. This full moon, for those of you that like the details, this lunar eclipse is going to be happening at 23 degrees of Virgo. So if you have any placements in the mutable signs, if you have placements in Virgo, if you have placements in Pisces, Sagittarius, or Gemini, especially if those placements are between 18 degrees and 28 degrees of those mutable signs, this lunar eclipse is going to have more of a significant impact on you. Okay, it's going to be very activating for you. All right, let's get into what a lunar eclipse is. It's a very powerful full moon, so to speak. You can think of it as like a full moon on steroids. So generally speaking, a full moon can be a completion. It can be like an ending of sorts. It can also be like a pivotal turning point, like a decision, a choice, something that shifts, a plot twist, so to speak. It can also be something that comes to culmination, like a celebration, or something that comes to fruition, like the peak moment of something. And so we can still experience those things during a lunar eclipse, but what makes it an eclipse is that the full moon is going to be falling near the south node. The south node is in Virgo. And essentially the south node is going to be representing those energies within us that we have outgrown, that we have a lot of experience with, patterns, behaviors, tendencies that we need to shed, that we need to release, that are restricting us. It can also indicate a very karmic energy. You know, if it has to do with our relationships or circumstances, it can be karmic experiences, karmic interactions that we're either re-engaging with or releasing on some level. And then oftentimes this can indicate a part of our energy, in this case, our Virgoan qualities, in which we have a lot of experience with that energy and where we can use that energy as kind of like a gift for a higher purpose. We can take the energy of Virgo and use it in a very wise way for a higher purpose. And so when we have a full moon conjunct the south node in this case, it usually indicates fated events. The north and the south node are the nodes of destiny, which, you know, from an astrological perspective, represent fated, destined occurrences in our lives. And from a spiritual perspective, I like to think of it as these moments in our lives where we are being realigned in some way with our soul. You know, a lot of times we come here to have an experience, and you know, on a human level, we have a certain amount of awareness of what that is and what to do and how to show up and how to embody the experience we came here to have. And then sometimes we can get off course, or we can get misaligned, or we can go out of balance in some way. And these eclipses, from my perspective, from more of a spiritual perspective, would be these moments where our soul kind of takes the wheel, you know, and we have destined endings, spontaneous events that occur, changes or upheaval, or even powerful new beginnings, permanent endings that happen that help us align with our soul's experience, something that's bigger than us, you know, something that's outside of our control on a human level. But nonetheless, you can think about these eclipses as very powerful realignments. They're going to pivot you and realign you in the direction that you need to go, even if at first we don't like it, even if at first it feels uncomfortable, even if at first it surprises us. There's a lot of energy in Pisces that is going to be opposing this lunar eclipse. We have Ceres and we have Saturn, the Sun, the North Node, and Neptune all in Pisces. And especially Saturn, the Sun is always going to be opposing the moon during a full moon, but Saturn, the North Node, and Neptune are all going to be opposing this full moon, this lunar eclipse. And whenever we have an opposition in astrology, you're likely going to feel that. If you're sensitive to energy, oftentimes it's easy to miss the supportive energies because it can feel so easy, or like things are coming together or things are working out for us, and we tend to overlook that, or we tend to just feel grateful for that, or not really validate that, But then when we come into these harder aspects, like an opposition or a square, or even in conjunction, that's when, or a conjunction actually it can be a difficult experience as well, but that's when you're likely going to really feel it energetically. So I want to start with the most prominent thing that most of us are going to feel, which is this opposition between all these Pisces placements and the full moon in Virgo. In an opposition, let's talk about the energy of an opposition. It's a balancing out. You can think of it as like a teeter-totter, or something that needs to be balanced out. You don't want too much Virgo and you don't want too much Pisces. You need to have a nice balance of both to have a positive or optimal resolution to the tension that comes up around this lunar eclipse. And so an opposition will bring up a type of tension. It can be in some ways tense, or challenging on some level. Sometimes it can feel like we're just having to balance out this Virgo energy, which is all about being practical and logical and even multitasking, and growing and serving and healing and improving and perfecting and, paying attention to the details, organizing things, putting things in order. These are qualities, general qualities that you can think about Virgo. And then you can think about the qualities of Pisces. Pisces is a sign that's very spiritual, very open to that multi-dimensional, mystical, spiritual world that is very hard to define, that lacks boundaries. Pisces can be very creative, compassionate, empathic, sensitive, flowy, non-linear, positive, optimistic, and so these are two energies we're balancing out. And so when there's a full moon in Virgo, oftentimes what we're doing is especially this lunar eclipse on the South Node, we're going to be releasing and shedding some old stuff. That's going to be very obvious. There's some old stuff we got to let go. And so when we think about, what would we outgrow with that Virgo energy? Where are we needing to let go of qualities or behaviors or habits that are getting in our way? When I'm looking at the energy of the full moon, I think one of the things that stands out to me is where we're not just releasing our anxiety and worries, and hyperfixation on the details, but also where we might be too much in that state of perfectionism. I feel like it's one of those moments where it's like nothing is perfect. We are in a big mess, like either personally you're feeling like life is messy, or maybe your outlook on the world and your experience in the world is feeling really messy. But letting things be messy, Pisces is okay with things being unorganized and non-linear and not making any sense and not being perfect. They're very compassionate, you know, and with the North Node in Pisces, we need more of that energy right now. And so sometimes perfectionism is going to stop you from, you know, putting yourself out there, creating something new, listening or committing to an idea, letting your light shine. Perfectionism can halt so much progress. And so I really think that the more we can embrace the messiness of ourselves and our lives and other people, we can move forward, you know, and it doesn't have to be perfect, you know, especially with this opposition with Saturn. You know, Saturn can bring up fears. You know, Saturn can bring up our mortality, death. It can bring up challenges and hardships, you know. And so I definitely think that there's going to be a release of fears, you know, around this lunar eclipse, something that we're fearing, a fear of success, a fear of failure, a fear of committing, a fear of responsibility, a fear of taking on more work, fear of developing a practice or a discipline or following a discipline, the fear of building our dreams. You know, Saturn is all about building, you know, building our dreams, creating a system. It's going to restrict, you know, it's going to restrict us at first. But the more we put in the work, the more we put in that discipline, the more we build, the more over time we have that delayed gratification of the results that we get from doing all that work. And so, you know, this full moon could have a sobering quality to it, or kind of like a weightiness to it, whether it's our fears or whether we're just getting very real about what it takes to build our dreams. We're also becoming more present. You know, Saturn, it's sobering for a reason, because it draws you into the present moment, and it requires you to get very real and grounded in reality. And so this is a moment of presence, you know, during the full moon, where we're looking at very practical, realistic steps that we can take to build new structure in our lives. Okay. The other thing that's opposing here is Neptune. Neptune can be a planet that really helps us like transcend. You know, it can be a beautiful mystical energy in our lives that allows us to have realizations and openings, and like where we are able to experience like our spiritual nature and our multidimensional self and our interconnected reality and like the possibilities of our lives. And it can be an incredible experience when you have transits with Neptune. You can have incredible creative and spiritual experiences, mystical experiences. But Neptune can also bring confusion. It can actually be a very tricky planet, tricky transits, you know, where you can be really confused. You know, with Neptune transits, you can oftentimes slide into illusions and delusions, you know, and not really know it. And you can definitely escape, you know, try to escape reality, whether you do that through drugs and alcohol, or whether you do that through coping mechanisms, or whether you do that through like spiritual bypassing of some kind, you know. And those are kind of the difficulties of Neptune that comes with it. And, you know, seeing that this is an opposition, you know, with the lunar eclipse in Virgo, I'm kind of asking that question, like, what do we need to release so that we can transcend something? What do we need to embrace more, you know, in our spiritual essence, so that we can create more? Like, where are we, you know? And I'm just sensing into that Virgo energy, like, where are we just obsessed with the details? Where have we been so attached to the details, worried about the details, anxious about the details, scared about the details, where it's almost starting to clog our path? You know, it's starting to be like a constipated energy. It's starting to slow us down. It's getting in the way. We have to let it go. We have to shed it, you know. Neptune will definitely help us dissolve something. And I do want to point out that in this opposition, Saturn's going to be at 22 degrees and Neptune's going to be at 29 degrees. That's 7 degrees apart. You know, they're getting close. They're in a wide conjunction. And so with this full moon, I feel like that conjunction can help dissolve old structures inside of ourselves, old energetic structures. If we have something that's, like a structure inside of us that's outdated, like an energetic system of some kind, this conjunction and opposition with the lunar eclipse here could help break that down and dissolve it, so that we can let it go, help and aid with the shedding process that we go through spiritually. Now, the other aspect that is important about this full moon, which is very supportive, is this trine that we have with Uranus at 24 degrees in Taurus, and it's going to be trining the full moon at 23 degrees. So Uranus, the planet of awakening, the planet of Kundalini rising, the planet that's going to allow you to have energetic breakthroughs, ascensions, realizations, insights, and help support your energetic breakthrough, the shedding process that you need to break through to liberate yourself, okay? Uranus is also a planet of revolution and rebellion and innovation, and so when we have a trine with Uranus, we have a very fast and supportive energy that comes through around this full moon that can bring change. This lunar eclipse in Virgo can definitely bring change. It's going to be supportive change, seeing that it's a trine, it's going to help, it's going to support, it's going to come in with ease and flow. But nonetheless, it could be spontaneous, it could be unpredictable, it could be, in some way disruptive to your typical routine. It might ask you to be adaptable. It might ask you to embrace a transition. It might ask you to multitask in some way. With this trine, I think that it can act as sudden insights, that come through that help us to shed whatever we need to shed. Oftentimes when we have a growth period, it's because we've had a shift in consciousness, or we've, had a realization, and we have an instant expansion, and then energetically we have to catch up to that expansion. And so I really think this full moon could be a strong collective shift in consciousness on some level, where we all have some form of personal insight, into our lives, personal realization, a shift in consciousness, or some type of awakening that occurs. Maybe. All right, so some things I want to point out as far as some transits leading up to this lunar eclipse, as well as some transits right after. I just want to point out that, Venus went retrograde on March 1st, okay? And it's going to be in Aries until March 26th. From there, it's still going to be in retrograde, but it's going to be retrograding in Pisces from March 27th until April 7th, and then it's going to turn direct again. And so it's going to be going through Aries first in your chart, and then into Pisces. And leading up to this lunar eclipse, something that I found interesting is that Mercury is going to conjunct Venus retrograde on March 11th. That's a few days before few days before this lunar eclipse. And so I think that could be a time where we're becoming more aware on a mental level what this Venus retrograde is all about in Aries for us. It could be a time where we're cultivating more self-awareness around something in regards to our relationships, our priorities, our values, love, our money, how we create together, how we, co-create together, how we work together. This could definitely be a time where we're receiving messages about relationships or having conversations with relationships, and just kind of going through more mental processing regarding, something that needs to be reworked or redone in our relationships, something that we have to go back, pause, make a change, take care of something, address something before we move forward again. The other thing I want to point out is that the sun is going to conjunct Saturn on March 12th. That's just one day before this eclipse, or a day or two, depending on, what day the eclipse falls for you. But this could be a time where we start to bring focus into that Saturn in Pisces kind of energy for us. Yeah, for some of us, it could be more sobering, where we get very real about something. But generally what I was feeling, since the moon is going to be kind of floating around in Virgo, is that we're going to be getting very real about what we need to put into order in our lives, you know, getting organized, like reorganizing things in our lives. Time to get grounded, you know, a time to assess our priorities, a time to carry out, you know, tasks and look at the details and, you know, work through any challenges that come up around that time for us. Bring more awareness and presence to what we're building and what we're creating, and, you know, how to bring some structure or order to that. Right after the lunar eclipse in Virgo, Mercury stations retrograde on March 14th. And so Mercury will first retrograde in Aries from March 14th to the 29th. And then it's going to continue retrograding into Pisces from March 29th to April 7th. Okay, so that partial solar eclipse in Aries, that's going to be happening on March 29th, and that will be happening during Mercury retrograde and Venus retrograde. Okay, and then, you know, later this month, Neptune will move into Aries, which is a very big deal. That doesn't happen every day. That's a pretty big shift in the energies. And so, yeah, we're looking at a month where, you know, plans are probably going to be reorganized. You know, we're going to definitely have to pause and stop and take care of some business, you know, before we continue on. And so if things don't go as planned, I recommend that you try to adopt an attitude of amusement. I recommend that you embrace this retrograde energy by, you know, be willing to cultivate some patience, slow down, go within. A beautiful thing about retrograde energy is that it can be very internal. And so this could be a month where there's a lot of energetic change going on internally, and we need to slow down. We need to adjust. You know, when we have big ascensions and big shifts in consciousness on a collective level, it can be tiring for our bodies. You know, we first start to notice the contraction, you know, right before a shift or an ascension. And we could be looking around at our lives, and we could be assessing things as boring, feeling dead, losing our passion for it, or we could just be resisting it because we don't like it anymore and it's not working for us. And this is just a reminder that if you're in that phase of contraction, to relax and allow, because oftentimes it can feel like we're regressing and going backwards right before we have a shift, or right before we have an ascension and a breakthrough, and we, you know, go beyond our upper limits. Okay, and then, you know, these eclipses that are happening this month could serve as pivotal moments, you know, like a week before, a couple weeks before, a couple weeks after, a month before, a month after, where we're getting activated. Okay, and it really depends on your personal chart and your placements in your personal chart. But there are going to be eclipse activations, and these can be both positive or challenging experiences that activate us. They push our buttons. They energetically stimulate us to have a release or to have an energetic change. And in that case, that can be temporarily energetically destabilizing. It could be mentally, emotionally destabilizing, physically destabilizing. Like you could literally feel tired, worn down, burned out, or like you could literally be getting sick, like the flu-like symptoms. That is very possible when you start to get very energetically activated and you start to have these big releases. I like to refer to them as dropping energetic anchors, because it's like sometimes we can be very rooted in old patterns and wounds and identities, and when we let them go, it can feel destabilizing. It can feel like the floor has suddenly disappeared beneath us and what we're used to experiencing is no longer there. And it can be a moment of fear and anxiety because we're going through a very deep energetic change, and it's very normal for your mind to respond to these deep energetic changes by experiencing fear or anxiety as a way or an attempt to help you survive. But if you can just remind yourself that these are big energetic changes, it's an ascension or a shift in consciousness that is happening, that you're safe and all you need to do is relax and allow and open and trust the process, eventually you'll create that energetic space that you need to allow more of you to come in, more of what you're embodying now, more of your truth, more of your essence, more of a balanced version of you, more of that version of you that you need, that identity that you might need for the next alignment in your life, for the next experience in your life. So I just want to throw that out there, that could be an experience for some of you, especially if you're going through spiritual transformations. You tend to evolve, you tend to have energetic changes, deep energetic changes happen within you, and you're sensitive to energy. This could be one of those months where, there's deep, fast, energetic change happening, and you want to be able to regulate yourself, have a spiritual practice that can help you regain your balance when you lose it, and just try your best to breathe through it, to open, to trust, to embrace the nonlinear journey, and to slow down, especially with these retrogrades. That is a very big piece of wisdom that can come through around these eclipses, is just to slow down, be patient, be willing to not force or push, be willing to, rework some things before we move forward. All right, so the next thing I wanted to add in this video is some channeled messages that came through. There have been a big group of people, there's a lot of us out there that have been in a cocoon, for maybe years. Some of us maybe having a dark night of the soul, some of us going through a deep transformation. But nonetheless, the impression that I got through these channeled messages is that at some point we were like a caterpillar version of us, and we felt the call to withdraw from society, and we detached from society, and we went into our caves, our nests, our cabins, hidden somewhere remotely in the woods or just in our houses, isolating ourselves from the world, whatever your cocoon was. The impression that I got was that a lot of us went within, we went deep inside of ourselves, to allow a very deep and profound transformation. And while the caterpillar is in the cocoon, it falls apart, it disintegrates, it loses its identity, and during that time, you could have felt very vulnerable, very sensitive, very not equipped, to engage with relationships or heavy workloads or society in general. And what I'm sensing is that this lunar eclipse in Virgo is a completion of this phase of being in the cocoon. That since then, we have all gone through maybe at least a year, if not more, of deep hermiting, where we've allowed some really strong energetic changes to occur. And that now we are restructured as butterflies, and there's kind of like a hatching going on or a merging going on, where it's kind of like you're walking through a field and you start to notice, like on all the bushes and all the trees and all the blades of grass, that there are all these cocoons, and that each cocoon is starting to move, and you're starting to notice the butterflies starting to emerge from the cocoon. And then you look around and you realize, oh my gosh, there's a whole field of butterflies that are emerging from their cocoons. And it's kind of like those beautiful nature videos that you see, where you see like a whole field of butterflies, like a swarm or like a big group of butterflies that are all flying at once. It's just like a big emergence of butterflies into the world. And that's what I'm sensing about this full moon. It's very much a conclusion or an ending of a certain phase, a certain phase of spiritual transformation that a lot of us have been through, a hermiting phase, so to speak, and a call of change. the call of change to go and reemerge with society, to go back into society, to go back into, more activity. This eclipse will eventually lead us to Aries season, before we get into the partial solar eclipse in Aries, and that will likely be a time where we're focusing on this reemergence, where we will be kind of adjusting and coming into that new identity, that new sense of self that is meant to reemerge into society and be more social and be more connected with people and our relationships, and so the impression that I was getting in this channeled message was that these people that have been hermiting play a significant role in society. They act as guides, teachers, healers, role models, mentors, distractors, like good distractions, and so what I felt was that these people were going through a transformation so that they could show up for other people, like in a very real, embodied, and enlightened way. People that can just hold space and bring people together to craft or do a hobby together, or just connect and just kind of take a break from the chaos of the world, or people that are here to just help people deeply heal, heal their trauma, heal their nervous systems, heal their bodies, heal energetically, have a deeper spiritual transformation, people that are here to be more activists, to create change in the world, to lead others through change, to inspire people to create change. There's many of us out there, and what I'm sensing is that each of us has our own personal path, our own unique experience. We're not all kind of rallying together for one purpose, but we have all kind of collectively gone into that cocoon or into that hermiting phase, within the same time frame, to allow a deeper transformation so that we can reemerge at this time and enter back into society again, offering our gifts to the world and our ability to show up for the world in a new way. So that is the channeled message that came through for this lunar eclipse. Maybe some of you have felt the call to come back into society. Maybe you're feeling the need to start a business, or maybe you're feeling the need to stop working from home and get a job somewhere in society, or maybe you're feeling the need to gather groups of people or start a community or get involved in a community, or maybe you're getting really revved up and inspired to be a part of political action. Everyone, again, is going to have a different experience, but I'm curious. One of the questions you can ask yourself is, what has been percolating for me around being called back into society? What is calling me back into society, and on what level, to have fun, to connect, to lead, to create, co-create. What's the call? Because there's kind of a completion around that hermiting. All right, so before I go, I'm going to pull some cards and give you guys some additional information that wants to come through for this lunar eclipse in Virgo. I'm going to start shuffling my tarot deck. All right, so we have two cards that came out with this tarot deck. We have the Nine of Cups. I love this ecstatic image of this person jumping with all these 9 bowls in the air and this treasure chest. I mean, that's an awesome image. Okay, so this is definitely like a culmination of sorts, like something that's coming together. This is like a wish granted kind of card. This is an energy of like something that you've been wanting, something that you've been needing, something that you've been manifesting really comes to culmination around this time. And we also have Two of Wands here, Two of Wands, and it's a person sitting at a window. She has the globe, she has a car. Two of Wands is an active kind of manifesting kind of energy. It's that energy of making plans. Like this person is looking out this window, there's some kind of opportunity that's coming through, and there's a need to, dream and plan and kind of start to put together the details and the plans for an opportunity that you're, considering manifesting. This person's on the ground, they're not physically active yet, but that creative energy is processing. That creative energy is bringing things together. There's definitely plans at work here. Yeah, so this kind of reminds me of like an alarm clock, when it's time to wake up. It's like tick, 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 tick. The time has been passing. There's been a lot of time passing. And then all of a sudden the alarm goes off and it's like, time to wake up. It's time, time to wake up and, time to plan, time to, think about something that you're creating, that you need to create and manifest. I'm just kind of sensing that something around this full moon with the trine with Uranus, is waking us up. It's kind of like, now's the time, embrace the opportunity. Something's coming together, something awesome, like a breakthrough, something supportive, something like an opportunity is coming together. And we want to be able to celebrate that, but we also want to get very realistic about making those plans, like what we actually need to do to make it happen. Like if all of a sudden something happens and you have the opportunity to travel, you might have to suddenly stop what you're doing and make plans, book the tickets, book the hotel, put together your plans before you leave and make it happen. That's a great example. There could be something surprising, something that wakes you up, something that happens out of nowhere, but overall it's positive, like an opportunity, like something coming together, like something you've been wanting, something that you could celebrate. That requires you to kind of stop what you're doing, pause, and rework your plans, and that's possibly why we have Mercury turning retrograde right after this lunar eclipse. It could be that something happens for us, it's not bad, but it is some kind of change or something innovative or something spontaneous that we might need to embrace, and we might have to readjust our plans or carve out the time or the space for these plans, so that's definitely a message that's coming through around this full moon. And I'm gonna go ahead and pull some more cards, and I chose this deck, the Animal Oracle, because it's a Virgo full moon, and Virgos, they love animals. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pull one of these cards. All right, so the card that came out was a turtle spirit, number 62, and it says, slow and steady wins the race. Yeah, what I'm sensing about this energy, thankfully I've had the experience of swimming with sea turtles before because I live in Hawaii. And, one of the things that I notice about sea turtles and what I'm seeing about this card is that, where they're not working too hard, they're not putting a lot of effort into their own movements. They go with the flow, they go with the waves, they go with the currents. So I really sense that energy of embracing that Pisces energy, where we're needing to slow down and just kind of going with the flow. If the current takes us this way, that's okay. We got to go this way, and the current might take us back this way again, or it might take us someplace else. And just kind of want to be very wise about our ability to kind of go with the current and go with the flow and slow down and not rush. And the last card that I'm going to be pulling here is a wisdom card. Okay, I'm gonna pull this card out. Okay, this card really wanted to come out, and it is Milk and Honey. Okay, and it is 51, and there's an elephant playing in a bath of honey and milk, and there's this rainbow. It's like a picnic table here. Very positive vibes. I'll tell you what, this full moon is giving off healing, positive vibes. I mean, look at this. We have 9 of Cups, this positive celebratory energy. We also have 2 of Wands, which is kind of planning something, embracing an opportunity, putting in the work around making plans, and then we've got this turtle, which is like, yeah, we need to slow down, for some reason. We need to go with the flow and slow down. But milk and honey, I mean, this is all about embracing the sweetness of life, like the good things in life, like cherishing, the sensual life, cherishing, all the good things that come together. Okay, so I'm going to read the message for this card. All right, milk and honey. Essential meanings of this card: the taste of prosperity, opportunities born of authenticity, nurturing abundance, trusting that your needs will be met. Ooh. You've entered a sweet time in your life, enjoying the land of milk and honey that everyone wants to experience. It's an interlude that feels more languid than ambitious, when all of your senses are awake to the unlimited possibilities in the universe. These times are precious. Only come when you're in your authentic zone, wearing the world as a loose garment, not wanting, yet able to be nourished in ways that are both tangible and subtle. Abundance is an energy that you are living part of. All of your needs are being met. You're given the gift of nourishment in every form. Since there's going to be Venus retrograde, I'm going to read the relationship message that says sensuality, connection, and passionate romance between lovers. Sweet moments of understanding and love amongst friend and family are all here for you to savor now. Your heart's calling will be answered. Let your thoughts and feelings be sweet with gratitude, and you will be nourished with the honey of abundance. So this is, for some of us, I feel like this is literally about our material world and our finances and our abundance. Like there could be something coming together, like an opportunity that can bring more abundance, something that requires you to make more plans and get more organized. When it comes to our relationships, I feel like this could be a release or something that comes to culmination that's healing for our relationships, that helps us savor those sweet moments in our relationships. With Venus and Aries, I think there could be a tendency to just like spearhead, our goals and kind of not necessarily have that awareness of our relationships, but more of our awareness of ourselves and, pursuing our own goals. And this could be, an important time to slow down and just like embrace, our connection with each other, and the abundance of our relationships and the love in our relationships, and kind of like reprioritize, like our values, like have you been focusing on too much work and not enough family and friends and time with your lover, those are just kind of things that are popping up right now as I tune into that. But yeah, generally speaking, I think this full moon is kind of mixed in its energies. Like I think there's going to be some things about it, with Saturn in opposition that can feel a little bit weighty or sobering or just like grounding us into reality in some way. But I also think that with the opposition with Neptune and the Sun and the North Node and this trine with Uranus, like something could really be coming together for us. This could be more of a culminating event, like not just a shedding process, like it's definitely going to be a shedding process, but I also think it could be a very liberating process, something that allows us to come more into abundance, more into what we want to create in our lives. It can be very healing. So I'm very much looking forward to this lunar eclipse in Virgo. Definitely, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. It's really gonna help me out a lot. And comment below, let me know if you have any Virgo or Pisces placements or any placements in the mutable signs. Let me know what is coming up for you, if you're feeling that call to go and reemerge back into society in some way. Let me know if you are noticing themes about being too perfectionistic or focused on the details, or where you're letting your anxieties or fears keep you from embracing change on some level, or opportunity, or your abundance on some level. Let me know in the comments. I would love to hear from you, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care. Bye.